Okay, everybody, now let's go ahead and compare to Google Docs. What I had recently discovered is that the OpenOffice software, which I had downloaded on my computer, I didn't even think about it, but that may or may not be available where we're going, so we may not always have that stuff open on our computer. So we may or may not be able to really get into a lot of the details. I am going to provide a little overview of OpenOffice. There are a couple of different sources actually on YouTube that have done sort of an overview, so I'm going to go ahead and use those because we may or may not actually be able to play in it. I'm just going to kind of wait and see on that one. As far as Google Docs goes, though, this is the one that, and it's a very basic format that you're going to run into. Remember, you saw that my cloud was connected, so that's what all of these are. You're going to see all these different documents that I've created, and anytime I've renewed something, it automatically uploads and comes into many different versions, and so it's all that sort of thing. What I've done here is I just created, there's just a basic document here. Now, you can see by these different indicators that they're different sorts of documents. So these ones were all created in Word and were uploaded. So that's why they look different. This one's an Excel document. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and I'll just give you a quick orientation to what is around here. But you can see that there are folders here, different collections that I have available. I have one for this class. I have one for another group that I share documents with a lot. There are other collaborations that were shared with me specifically rather than ones that I created. And then there are ones that are owned by me, all items. You can break this down because you could end up with a lot of documents in here. And it can get a little hairy, so you just want to get it organized if possible. Now, when you go into Google Docs, you'll go ahead and log in with your Gmail. And if you go into Create, you're going to see all of your options here. You can see that this one is a document, and that's what we're going to be working in today. And then there's presentation, spreadsheet, a form, a drawing, a table. While these things we don't cover as far as the Office suite goes, we are going to be addressing some of these things because they can be pretty helpful for you as a teacher. Okay, so if I want to go and create a document, I'm going to go ahead and create a new one here. And you can see that it just opens up into a web-based format. And you're going to see right up here that I'm logged in as myself, that there is an area for comments here, but also there's a share option, and that's really what I want to stress here. There are some sharing options available in Word, but they're really a lot easier if you're hooked up to the link system, which is their telecommunications. Our phones on campus are actually hooked up to that, so that does make it very easy for me to share documents with other people who have that system. But otherwise, the document's pretty static, and you have to send it through email, and it's not really a living document the way that Google Docs is. So if you look on the share option here, I'm going to go ahead and click that, because this is the most important feature, so it's a good idea to start off with that. This is automatically defaulted to private, but you can change that. So you can make it completely public and available to anybody on the web, so anybody who has the internet can find access. You can have anyone with a link, which is normally what I do. If I send out the link to somebody, I mean, anything that I share with a group, I'm not going to be devastated if it goes out into the great beyond. It's nothing serious and private. It's just the stuff that I'm working on. But I don't really want people to be able to search it either. So putting it with a link, that's available. It's set to private so that if you choose that, you can go ahead and change it. This is the owner, and you can add emails, names from your contacts, things like that. So if you want it to be private and only for that group and never have the possibility of having other people view it, that's what you want to do. The difference between that and the other one is that providing the link is that if you add new people to your group of collaborators, you got to go back in here and add their name and their email and everything, and that can be just a little bit annoying. So anyway, it really just depends on what you need, and then you go ahead and hit share and save when you're done, and then you can have all of your settings. Now, as far as a document and the format itself, this one actually follows the old rules that we talked about with Word, where you have just your basics here, your basic tasks, and then you click on the drop down and you're going to see, like I said, remember there were sections and then subsections, and then there were others within those subsections. So that, and it didn't have, they had the images and the icons, and this one doesn't have that. So you can see it does follow sort of the old formatting of Word documents, and that's important to know. So when you click on it, you got to kind of know where you're going a little bit more. Word, it's a little more intuitive. But you have to be familiar with it. Now, the good news is that if you've already been working in Word before, an older version, say in 2003, this isn't going to be any big deal. You're going to be able to figure it out. It's not rocket science. So if we look in the File section, you can, it obviously gives you an option to share here, which you can always also do with this icon up here. It gives you the same features you have before: new, open. Rename is basically their word for save as, so it's just sometimes it's just a question of verbiage. You can make a copy of the document. This one is unique in that if you're working collaboratively, it's pretty helpful to see this. If you see revision history, you're going to be able to see that I was in this class and working on a revision here. So you can see all of the list of all of the people. So if you have students that are working collaboratively on a document and you're concerned about that one group member who does not want to do the work and wants to let everybody else do it, you can clearly see all of the revision history, and it can't be changed by other users in there, so they can't go in and adjust it. So that's very nice. Let's see, what else is here? Language. Give you all of the same language options. I believe they're all the same as you saw in Word. You can download this if you choose to not let it sit in the cloud anymore. You actually want to turn it into a document you can save onto your hard drive. Then you can change it to, and you can see 97 to 2003, it will allow you to change to .doc, but not older versions. So that does say something about the way that this is very basic compared to the much more dynamic Word tool that's out there now. There's open document format, rich text, all these different versions depending on what it is you want to do with the document. You can publish it to the web, so if there's a specific, once you're done sharing it, if you want to go ahead and publish it, you can do that. You can email your collaborators, so that's a handy tool if you have a question about the document or you want to let everybody know what's going on. If I had a list of people here, I say I don't have any collaborators listed, but if I wanted to do that and go ahead and email them on it, I can do that directly from the document. Here's the trick: you got to make sure that you've got the people in there. That's the important part. So remember when we said before about privacy and those different settings, you can share it with that small cohort, but you had to have those people listed in there. Same goes here. So that's where it's a little bit different. Okay. What else do we have here? You've got page setup, which is where you're going to find your portrait and your landscape, your paper size, your page color, and they give you some options there. Again, not as many. It's not as dynamic, and that's really kind of the general rule with Google Docs, is that it's basic, and sometimes too many choices is not a good thing either. It really does get confusing for people, and it doesn't really serve a purpose. So it's important to balance your need for choices with, feeling overwhelmed by things too. It has your margin settings here, and you can go ahead and set it to anything you like, and then just set it as the default. Again, not as many choices. Let's see. It's got a print preview, print, all that kind of good stuff. Edit functions are all pretty much the same. There's undo, and you can see that it just went out there for a second. It automatically saves your document as you're going through. So you can go in and save it, but it's doing that all the time, so you don't really have to worry too much about that. The reason it's doing that is because it's assuming that you're collaborating with other people, but you don't want somebody typing something and not having it show up in your own class. So that's or in your own document. That's really kind of the point. So when we work on it in class together, you're going to be able to see other people collaborating as they go in on this document. So it's pretty cool. Undo, redo, cut, copy, paste, all that basic stuff. Select all. Find and replace, is always an option too, so you can go ahead and search that. Let's see. Now your view options, it does give you a compact view option. It shows the ruler and the spelling suggestions, but it also has an equation toolbar, so if you go and click on that, you're going to be able to see it here. And if I want to enter a new equation, then I can just scroll down here and see these are my functions here and here and here. So it gives you, pretty decent selection of basic equation topics here. Okay, but I don't need that, so I'm going to get rid of it. Let's see, full screen view. Your insert options, okay, you need to, first of all, you could see that some of them were blanked out, but if you click on the document itself, then you're going to be able to see your options here. Now this is where it actually has a leg up on Microsoft. At least I wouldn't say a leg up, but it's easier to do it. And the things are always easier when there's less functionality. So if you click on image here, it's going to give you a couple of different options here. You can upload it, just like we talked about in the last one. You can take a snapshot with your own webcam. You can search by URL, so if you know that there's a website that's just a picture, you can go ahead and put that in there. You can go through your albums, or you can search. And when you do a search, it goes into Google, Life, and any stock images that you have on your computer. Now, what's really good about this is that you can see with their indicator here, results shown are labeled for commercial reuse with modification. So any images that they show in here are totally free and clear for you to use and to modify. So they did a lot of this grunt work for you, which is really nice. They do have a little, issue there, reminding people you might want to double check on everything just to make sure, but you have a lot more flexibility here to not worry quite so much about that. So let's say I wanted to include a picture of a volcano. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do a search, and then I can see all of these images that are going to be okay for me to use, which is pretty cool. So I want to go ahead and add, let's say, this image. Okay, and it says the image you highlighted was selected by the Google image search. Okay, so it already did some of the legwork for you with the search, which is really great. So you hit select, and then it's going to show up as a pretty big image. So if you click on it, and then you go ahead and go to the edge and you scroll, drag it down a little bit, you're going to be able to see it a little bit lower here. Okay, all right. Now, your other options here, you can do a web link. So if you have just like you did in Word, you can have equations. You can include a drawing here if you want to go ahead and I'll show you some of these tools here, but you can include an image and a text box and a shape and everything. So you want to create a specific drawing or an item that helps to explain a concept, then you can go ahead and insert that. Let's just go ahead and find some shapes here. Go ahead and just add a shape in there for whatever reason. Okay, so let's say I've got that and I like it. Okay, save and close, and there you go. It's all done. Okay, so that's where it's a little bit, it's not quite as intuitive because you don't always think about going to drawing for something like that. But this drawing feature is going to be pretty helpful. So this is how you're looking for things like callouts and equations. While it was already easily and open and available at the last one in Word, it's not quite so much so here. So you can see, remember there were lots more callout options. There were lots of arrow options, equations, all that stuff. There were just more choices. But again, more isn't always better. It really just depends. So if you go ahead and start it up here, you can do all of your drawing that we did in the last one. You can actually do in here. And if you want to go ahead and change it, you can. Okay. Now let's see. What else have we not really covered here? You can insert comments just like you did in the other one, footnotes, but you can see the citation options are far, far fewer here. So doing that really heavy lifting for word processing, Word definitely makes it a lot easier for you. Basic day-to-day sort of stuff, not so much. So, and that's probably why a lot of K-12 schools are taking on, is that they still have some computers that have Word on it for things like that. But for the most part, a lot of teachers just don't need a whole lot of heavy word processing stuff. So that's usually why. Special characters you can include here. So it's got a whole listing of really random stuff depending on what it is you need to do. So you can go ahead and select those. Let's see, page numbering, page count, header, footer, bookmark, all those sorts of things. Table of contents is all available. Again, not always quite as dynamic. It's not always as obvious, but they do offer you those tools. The formatting, this is where you do your bold, italic, all of these different options. Remember, though, that this toolbar right down here, and I probably should have pointed that out when we got started here, but this basic toolbar will do all that stuff for you. So you've got this text color option. But again, remember, it's not, you don't have as many options. So it's got the bold, italic, it's got all the different font, types and everything, although there are other fonts that are available in Word. The image, the URL. This is just sort of an area for quick links here. Is always available. Numbering, bullets. You can see all that stuff there. Okay. What else in formatting? There's paragraph styles, so you can have, remember those headers that we talked about that can be helpful if you're doing table of contents? Well, here, the only problem is you can't really tell what the heading actually looks like, so you have to kind of work with it a little bit more. You can align it, line space it, do list styles, and again, you can see the bullets, the hollows, the squares, but it doesn't have a check mark or that crazy color thing, so, fewer choices. Go into tools, and there is a great new research feature. So if you want to start, when we talked about how the other word was connected to a Bing search, and so it would search through all kinds of different documents for you and different resources outside of what they've done. Google does the same thing. You type in, any concepts, volcanoes. Okay. And then it will, come up with Wikipedia entries and, things like that. So if you need to do those research, it's still pretty dynamic as far as that's concerned. Word count, translate the document, it'll do that too, again with all of those languages. You can insert the table just like you did, and that is the same format. You just roll over them until you find what you need. And you can see that as you keep going, it will expand too. So it originally looked like just a very small possibility of selections, but it does it pretty clear. So if you go and click on that, then you can see your table. And if you look in table properties, that's where you can change your border color, your cell background color, your alignment. Doesn't give you as many pre-designated design choices, but you can customize it a little bit. Let's see. And then there's always the help option, which you always need to know where the help option is. So if you search in their help center and you start typing out, a question, it's going to be able to search through many, many different formats, just like Word does, to figure out how to best help you. And that's basically Google Docs in a nutshell for this particular document. But again, we're going to play with them both a lot and see from a day-to-day perspective how important are these different tools, so that you will be able to go to your school and help them assess whether or not sticking with Word for everybody is the best thing, or if it's better to use Google Docs for the most part and give certain people access to Word.